Hey guys, welcome to This Week in Housing. Now I know you don't know what that is yet, but you will. About a week and a half ago, I was thinking to myself, how can I provide more value to everyone out there that's really counting on me for updates in the market? You know, I go on YouTube and I see market updates from 3 weeks ago, a month ago, 6 months ago. Well, back then there was no pandemic, right? So that's clearly not valid information. And so I wanted to ask myself, what can I do that wouldn't take up all my time to provide free value and just be a resource to you guys? And I thought, I'm already going over market trends for sellers and other clients that I'm working with. I already have to know what's going on in the market anyways. Why don't I just make a video every single week and let you guys kind of see what direction the market is trending? Because if you're having thoughts of either buying, selling, renting, or investing, you may want to know exactly what to expect when you get involved in the market yourself. And so I decided every week I'm going to go over what's happening in the market. Now I want you to know real estate is hyper local. So what I'm looking at is going to be the stats for the entire greater Augusta area, not necessarily your neighborhood. If it was a client that I'd be working with, it'd be a lot more specific and we take a hyper-local look into what's going on in their neighborhood and even in their price range. So some of this might not be exactly for you, but it's going to give you a general scope that I'm comparing for the area average for all of my sellers. And there's a couple things you need to know. First, I want to talk about why this is important. A lot of agents are already aware of a balanced market, a buyer's market, and a seller's market. And I kind of want to show you real quick exactly how to use This Week in Housing so you can make better housing decisions as we move forward through this process together. So, what I want you to think about is whether it's a good time to buy or sell. How do you know, right? Well, the truth is, if there's a lot of people buying, you probably don't want to be one of them. And if there's a lot of people selling, you also probably don't want to be one of them. So what we've decided on a national basis is if you have about 6 to 7 months of inventory, and I'll explain what that means soon, in your market, it's balanced. If you have more than that, it's considered a buyer's market, meaning it's a great time to buy. If you have less than that, it's considered a seller's market, meaning it's a great time to sell. Now, it is going to depend on price range and things like that we just talked about, but on a general level, I want you to stick with me here. So for your inventory, if you've got 6 to 7 months worth of inventory on the market, that's going to be balanced. If you have more than 6 months, this is going to be a market that is specific for buyers. It's a great time to buy. Now, if you have less than 6 months, this is going to be a market that is really for sellers. Okay? Now, if you have drastically low inventory or drastically high inventory, what do you think happens there? A lot of people don't know this, but that's a great time for investors to turn over their properties. So if you have less than about 1 month of inventory, that's when investors have decided they've held to the maximum amount of appreciation for their property, and it's a good time to let go of some of their holdings. If there's more than about 12 months of inventory, that's when it's a great time for them to pick up some more inventory and let it appreciate as the cycle continues. And so what I really want to do with This Week in Housing is let it be a show that you can tune into every single week to get an idea of exactly when it's a good time for you to take the actions you're planning on taking next. And there's 5 things that I make sure I track for the average market to go through. That way I can compare this average market to what's going on specifically for all my clients. Now, I can't provide you what's going on in your area on one big video and have that be the case without us going over some specifics, but I can give you that general that I'm using as a comparison for everything to go back to. And so there's 5 things that I track, most of them on a weekly basis, and one of them is kind of a monthly cycle that we're gonna go through. And I want you to be able to use this to see when it's a good time for you to take those actions in real estate that you're thinking about. The first one is our new listings. And this is just in the last 7 days, how many new listings hit our market? How many came into our marketplace, right? That's going to be important because you're going to be able to look at the number of new listings, and even if it's a seller's market right now or a buyer's market right now, you can compare this to some of the other things I'm going to talk about and really see what direction it's trending. Is the market rising? Is it falling? Even if it's still for sellers, what's about to happen? And this is what I call a leading indicator. This shows us where the market is going. This is kind of how we, in a way, predict what's likely to be the future. The next thing that we really want to look for is our new pendings. These are things that are going under contract right now. This week, how many properties that were active are no longer available for people to just go and make an offer on? This ratio is going to show you, let's say, for example, we had 217 new listings, which is accurate information for you for this past week. But let's say the number of new pendings was 222. Well, that sounds like we're getting a lot, but if they're flying off the shelf rapid fire, what way is the market really trending? I mean, are we really moving the needle on how many months of inventory we have? No. So that's going to be an important relationship for you to look at. The third thing that I look for, and this is the one that's usually on a monthly basis, and this is why I want to start it this week, because it's in between 2 months, right? And this is the number of new closings that we had, okay? Now for us right now, the number of new closings that we had in the last week was 285. Now this number is going to be a lot lower at the beginning of the month and a lot higher at the end. So I wanted to start it on a week that kind of had both of those in there so you can see the past 7 and how that relationship actually is going to look. So if we know that we have more properties that are in fact coming off the market than going on, we know we're leaning even more towards a seller market than we were the week prior. And my hope is that by us going through all of this every single week together, you'll be able to have a head start on where the market is going before it actually gets there. You can see the trend and you can know what's going to happen, because if you put your house on the market, it's not just going to be there for 1 month. It might be there for 2, 3, depending on what's going on specifically in your neighborhood. And I want you to be ready for not only what's happening now, but what's likely to happen over the next 30, 60, or maybe even 90 days, depending on your price point. The fourth thing that we look for, this is where I want to draw a distinction for you guys. A lot of agents, what they do is they look at the average numbers on the market, and while that's good, what tends to be more useful is the median values that are on the market. Because the average, understand, that's everything added up together divided by the total number of listings or whatever it is, right? The problem with this is if there's a drastically low situation or a drastically high situation, well, that's going to skew your number drastically. However, if you look at the median value, that's different, because what that does is it takes the lowest amount and orders them as they go up to the highest and just looks for that middle value. And that middle value is a lot more likely to be what you are than the average value, because it's not as easy to skew those numbers. And so to make sure I'm looking at accurate information for my sellers and for you to have, I'm going to use the median. So in the last 7 days, out of all of the inventory that's active on the market right now, the average doesn't matter. The median does. And the median value in our marketplace right now is $248,450. $248,450. Okay? So you know if the house that you're looking at buying or selling is above, at, or below this number, are we dealing with a higher or lower priced property compared to what's on the market? You can then decide for yourself, am I in the upper range, lower range, how much are these numbers going to affect me? So when I go over the next category, which happens to be days on market, and I tell you that right now the average is 63, if I were to tell you that doesn't really apply across the board for all properties, you know, more expensive properties tend to be on the market a little bit longer, you may know if you're selling a 400,000 property, it's not exactly going to be 63 days that you should expect with what's going on in the market. And so that's an important relationship that I want you to be aware of. And now I kind of want you to be able to look at all these numbers and see this is the micro version of it, and I want you to look at it on a macro scale over here with me so we can see exactly why this matters. So right now, in the greater Augusta area on the market, we have active inventory of 1,309 listings, okay? And then you need to know your monthly absorption rate. Now what this is the number of properties that are being purchased on a monthly basis. And so right now, the average is 704. So if we're selling 704 properties a month on average, and we only have 1,309 listings available, that's going to give you how many months of inventory you have to tell what type of market that you're in. And that just happens to come out to 1.859 months of inventory. And so what I want you to be able to do is I want you to know where we are on a big picture currently, look at the way things are trending to be able to see what direction it's going to head. So if you're looking to buy or sell, you'll know exactly what's going on in the market. That way you can make a more informed decision. If you want more information about exactly what's going on in your neighborhood, I'd love to be a resource to you. Feel free to message me, or if not, just tune in next week for This Week in Housing.